Is your buyer's agent actually working for you? This is an unfortunate question that so many buyers, after they close on their home and their agent has cashed their commission check, they find themselves asking because they're now in a home that has issues that didn't turn up in the inspections. And they're realizing that, yeah, well, there's some stuff that we liked about this home. We fear that we overpaid. We also don't really love the neighborhood or the area. And they ask, why did our realtor want us to buy this one? And they start to just feel like, did they actually represent our wishes and desires to the best of their ability? And in many cases, the honest answer is no. No, they did not, which is why I'm creating this video. And it's frankly why I've created this entire channel. If you're new here, my name is Nick. I am building DIY Homebuyer Academy, where it's my goal to empower you to successfully represent yourself as a homebuyer. Been a licensed realtor. I've helped tons of people on both the buying and selling side of the equation. But as I look at the future of real estate and as I just think about what it is that I want to be a part of, I love this idea of empowered and educated consumers who are able to successfully represent themselves, and in doing so, able to save 2 to 3% or more by reducing transaction fees when buying their next home. So if that's the kind of thing that you're even remotely into, well, the way you can let me know that is by liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and best of all, sharing this with a friend who's also thinking about buying a home. And by doing so, you may just save them $20,000 as well. So it would be a great kindness. But I want to kick this video off as we think about, does a buyer's agent actually work for me? Well, let's just think about their compensation structure. Because in the traditional compensation structure, a buyer agent is paid a commission based upon the total sales price of whatever home it is that you buy. And more than that, they don't receive a single dollar until you have actually closed on the home, which at the quickest is usually about 2 weeks. It's pretty rare that a home closes faster than 2 weeks. On average, it's about 30 to 45 days from contract to the closing date. And in many cases, it can be 90 plus days that a buyer agent is working with a buyer client. Now, just put yourself in the agent's shoes. You make more money when the client spends more money, and you also don't get paid until or even if your client buys a home. So, if that's your profession, what do you hope all of your clients do? The clear and obvious answer is you hope all of your clients spend as much money as possible and as quickly as possible. Because the faster that you're able to get your clients through the home buying process, the more profitable you are as a business person. So, the fundamental way that traditional buyer agency is structured is at odds with what you as a home buyer actually want, which is an agent who is looking out for your best interests, no matter how long it takes to find you the perfect home and to negotiate the best deal. And even if you're halfway through and something terrible comes up in the inspection report, you don't want them telling you to not worry about it. You want for them to uh, full heartedly tell you that, yeah, we need to walk away from this one. But as a buyer agent who only gets compensated when you successfully close on a house, that is a very hard thing for most buyer agents to actually be able to do. And you see this based upon what metrics buyer agents celebrate. I mean, just go to the social media profiles of your realtor friends and look at what metrics they have in their profile or in their social media posts. You're going to see them celebrating GCI, that's gross commissions income, or you're going to see them celebrating the amount of sales volume, the number of closings that they have, or you're going to see the notorious tag of being a top producer, whatever the heck that means. And there's a saying that What gets measured gets managed. And another phrase that I like even more, that what gets celebrated gets replicated. And the thing is that the brokerages that buyer agents work in and for, well, what they are celebrating is the amount of money that those agents are bringing in. And that's why you see all the social media posts about gross commission income, because that's what makes the brokerage profitable. You don't see them celebrating how much money they saved their buyer client. You don't see them celebrating how many hours they spent going from home to home. You don't see them celebrating the months that it took to find the perfect home, because those are not the kinds of things that buyer agents want to encourage of their buyer clients or in the market writ large. That's not what makes a business profitable, which is why I just step back and say, hey, this whole thing is systemically screwed up. Like, we have people who are agents representing buyers, but they want completely different things from what a typical home buyer wants. This is a massive, massive disconnect. And I don't see very many people who are actually trying to fix it. Now, I realize that some buyer agents will say, well, hey, there are things that we are putting into place to protect home buyers that work with us. Like, what about buyer agency agreements? Those are good, right? Because they outline compensation upfront and agent duties to a client. But the way that I see most of these buyer agency agreements being leveraged is actually as a tool to lock consumers in, rather than something to create transparency and serve consumers. What I mean by this is, I've seen many buyer agency agreements that home buyers send to me after signing, where one, the form isn't adequately explained. Two, it's often shared like under duress, where the buyer and the agent are on the doorstep of a house that they're about to tour. And then the agent pulls out this form and says, hey, by the way, I have to get this signed before I can show you a house. It's a state requirement or whatever. And then they go back after signing it and they see, oh my gosh, I just signed on to a 6-month agreement with this person as my exclusive agent. And if I buy any house that I looked at with them, I'm going to owe them a 3% commission, whether it's coming out of my pocket or whether it's a seller credit from the seller, or whether we need to tack it onto the sales price. What the heck have I just signed? These things can be rather difficult to get out of as well. So, yeah, even though there have been some things that the National Association of Realtors has done over the last year to try and make it look like agents are working for you as the consumer, and they're trying to protect you, I actually see these as very, very self serving agreements that lock consumers in more than they create transparency. You'll also hear agents throw around the term of fiduciary responsibility or duty. I have a fiduciary duty to my clients. And that sounds really nice. It does. But you ask most buyer agents, especially, well, what in the world does that mean? And they're pretty soft in terms of their definition. And here's the other problem with fiduciary responsibility: it's notoriously difficult to police whether or not an agent has broken fiduciary responsibility. Now, here's an example of that, right? You found a house that you love, but it's listed at 850,000. You only want to spend 825,000 on it. So, you have your agent make up the offer, but your agent knows that you have 850,000 to spend. And so after you submit your offer, the listing agent and the buyer agent, they get on the phone together. And one of the things that your agent may say to the listing agent is that, hey, my client is, they wanted it at 825, but they're good up to 850. Or they give something away about your financial position that if you were representing yourself, you would never say to the other listing agent or to the seller. And then all of a sudden you get a counter back at 845,000 or right at 850,000, and you have no idea what was said in the background. It is so easy for agents to circumvent fiduciary responsibility and for you as the home buyer to have no idea because you just don't know what is being said or what isn't being said. And yes, of course, at the end of the day, it's always up to you whether or not you're going to move forward on a house. But it's really difficult to know how well your agent is actually representing your position and your desires versus how much they're motivated by just trying to get a deal done, even if it's going to cost you an extra $15,000 to $20,000, because unless you get the deal done, they don't get paid and they're back to square one with trying to find you a new home. And dual agency is another major issue that comes up for home buyers where they are represented by a dual agent. That is one agent who represents both the seller and the home buyer. And this warrants its own whole video. But if you find yourself in a dual agent situation, at best, your agent has just been absolutely neutralized. So they're not working for you or against you. But again, that's very hard. Human nature is not one to just remain neutral in these things, especially when the agent's own commission is on the line. And in all likelihood, if the agent had the relationship with the seller first, they are, even in subtle ways, going to be advocating for what's in the seller's best interest more than they're going to be advocating for what is in your best interest. When there is one agent who is representing two parties, two opposing parties, it just doesn't work. And certainly we can't say that the agent is working for you in that situation. The irony, though, is that because they get to say they're representing you, that's when they usually get to double end both sides of the deal, which is why agents love dual agency or being transaction brokers, because instead of only getting 3%, they're getting a full 6%. And this is a key distinction. I do not advocate for dual agency ever. When I tell you in other videos that as a self-represented buyer, you're going to work directly through the listing agent, you are doing so as a self represented buyer, not as somebody who is being represented by a dual agent, which means that you don't have any formal representation. The listing agent has no duties or obligations to you from a fiduciary standpoint. But it also means that they shouldn't receive both ends of the compensation, that there should be a reduction in transaction fees because there is no buyer agent to pay. You are serving that function on your own. More on that later, but I just think that that's a very important distinction to make. So, what are 3 red flags that your agent is not really working for you? They're just working for their commission. One is that they push you pretty hard towards their preferred lenders or home inspectors or title companies. While there's some regulation over kickbacks and those kinds of things, it still can be hard to police the kind of relationships that realtors may have with other industry professionals. There are many scenarios in which if an agent promises to send their clients to use so and so mortgage broker, that mortgage broker will pay for the agent's advertising budget or something like that, or they'll help pay for the cost of Zillow leads. All sorts of shenanigans. Similar kind of thing can happen with home inspectors where there can be subtle kickbacks, or the agent just has a relationship with the home inspector where it's kind of a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We're not going to highlight everything. We're not going to look at everything because we don't want to create issues that would prevent this deal from closing. So sad as it is to say, you have to be really careful when you trust your agent's recommendations towards certain service providers. And this is why I always say, if your agent tells you you should use so and so lender, well, That's fine to talk with that lender, but you should always get loan estimates and quotes from a couple of other lenders outside of who your agent recommended. Similar with home inspections, like sure, vet the people that your agent recommends, but look at your own home inspectors as well. There can just be so many ways where agents are able to make a little bit extra money by pushing you toward their people. And that's something to be wary of. The second red flag is if you feel any rush from your agent to make a decision. Now, it is true, there can be some highly competitive markets with multiple offer situations, but you'll have a pretty good feel for when those moments are. And it is certainly not on every home, especially in today's market. So if you have an agent who is trying to create a false sense of urgency, well, that's again because they're thinking about how long it's going to be until they see any money from the time that they are spending with you. And they want to get you through that funnel as quickly as possible. This happens when touring homes, trying to get you to make a decision quickly after one time out on, okay, of these three that we saw, you ready to put an offer in on this one? It's like, well, you saw only 3 homes. Like maybe the one that you want wasn't in that batch of homes yet. It can happen with offer terms and how much to offer. It can happen during inspections, rushing you through the inspection process, not getting specialists out, not asking for everything that you might want to ask for. These are big red flags if you're feeling a rush or a pressure from your agent. It should be a major, major red flag for you. And the third red flag is many of you have a fairly wide range on your budget. You may be looking at homes that are between $650,000 and $800,000. And if you give your agent that kind of a range and all they ever send you are listings that are $800,000 to $850,000, well, that might be a red flag about what they're really looking out for. Is it finding you the best home for you and your needs, or is it maximizing their commission amount at the end of the day? Similar to this would be if they steer you away from homes where the seller is not offering market rate compensation. So if a seller is not offering a 2.5, 3% concession for covering buyer agent compensation, your agent may try to discourage you from looking at those homes, even if those would be the best possible homes for you. So, this agent steering based upon commissions is becoming a bigger and bigger problem, even since the NAR settlement a year ago. It's just something to have your like kind of spider sense up about. Like, okay, what homes is my agent not showing me that I see online that could be a good fit, and why? Why aren't they showing them to me? In all likelihood, it'll have something to do with their compensation, and if so, that's a major red flag. So, of course, you know where I stand in all of this. Like, while there are some good agents out there, in fact, I believe myself to be one of them, but sadly, they are few and far between. And the likelihood of you coming across one is actually quite low. Most agents, especially in today's market where sales are slow and everybody is desperate for their next commission check, well, they're going to be pushier and they're going to be prioritizing their commission over treating you properly as a client. So I advocate for you to learn how to represent yourself rather than entrusting yourself to somebody who is financially incentivized to rush you through the process. Learn how to be the person that protects your own best interests. A real estate transaction is not nearly as complicated as buyer agents want for you to believe it is. It is a highly, highly standardized transaction with standardized forms, standardized processes, a lot of different people that are involved quite apart from agents. If you're financing the home, there's a lender who has a huge financial stake in making sure that everything is above board You'll find a lot of help from them. Title companies who truly do act as third parties. There are really wonderful home inspectors out there to make sure that you're getting a good, solid home. There are real estate attorneys, and there are folks like myself that do real estate consulting. So you have options other than just going down the traditional path, and options in which you can build much greater alignment between the professionals you're working with and what your ultimate goals are. And best of all, rather than taking you out of the driver's seat, you're actually empowered to be the one who's getting on the phone with the listing agent and communicating exactly what it is that you want to say. If you want to offer 825 on an 850 home and you want to hold to that number, you're able to do that without any sort of question mark in the back of your mind of, what is my agent saying about me and my financial position? Are they representing me to the best of their ability and in the way that I want to be represented? And of course, you're also able to save a ton of money by removing the buyer agent component. That is one less person that has to be paid at closing. And with buyer agent commissions being often around 3%, on that $800,000 home, that's $24,000 of savings. I mean, you do the math based on your own situation, but that's a lot of financial incentive if you're at least in my shoes to say, yeah, I'm going to figure out how to represent myself. And again, that's what this whole channel and DIY homebuyer community that I'm building is dedicated to. How do I create as much value as possible for American homebuyers? So I'm really glad that you found this video. Again, before you go, if you haven't already, do like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments what here resonates with you. What would you like to see me make a video about in the next one? Thanks, y'all.